Laws and rules. Law and society. Law's function is to provide a framework so there can be peace and harmony. It's to define the kind of community that most people want. It's to protect individual rights and to stop behaviour that affects peace and good order. Laws can make governing more efficient. They can mean equality for all people regardless of their background. Laws can educate people. Why do we need laws? To avoid chaos. Laws regulate behaviour, establish rights, responsibilities and acceptable behaviour. They resolve disputes. They keep society together by reflecting community customs and values. What are community values based on? Community values are based on social values, for example the family unit, marriage and divorce laws, religious beliefs, anti-discrimination laws, protection of personal freedom. Economic values, for example property ownership or consumer laws. Community values are based on moral values, what a majority of people believe is right or wrong, for example protection of life or treatment of children. Political values, democratic values, for example the right to trial by jury or the presumption of innocence. Is the law fair? The law and difference. Justice and law. What is reasonable? Reasonable expectations, reasonable in the circumstances, beyond reasonable doubt. The law of negligence refers to the need to take reasonable care and the need to think about a case like a reasonable person. The word reasonable is very important in the law, but what does it mean? Interpretation, deciding what words mean. The same word can mean different things to different people. Reasonable in one country or culture might not be reasonable in another. For example, capital punishment, killing someone for certain crimes, is legally reasonable in parts of the US, but not in Australia. Culture and customary law. Most countries have a legal system based on written laws to regulate society. All cultures have other traditions and rules that regulate their society, called customary law. In many countries like Australia, there are both sorts of law. Some differences between customary law and written law. Western law uses evidence to try to find out the truth about what happened. In customary law, restoring social relationships is the most important consideration, more than finding the truth. Recognition of customary law. Sometimes a custom or practice is recognized by a Western court of law. It must be reasonable to be recognized. What is the test for reasonableness? In Sudan, the courts define a custom as reasonable if it is based on justice, equity and good conscience. However, this allows only judges to decide whether a custom is reasonable. In Australia, the courts define reasonableness as what an ordinary person would think is reasonable. However, what is normal for one person might be different for someone else. Rules and laws. Laws. All people who live in or visit Australia must observe Australian law. The penalties for breaking the law can deter others, help prevent future conflict if people know the results of unacceptable behaviour. Rules. Many rules are not enforceable under the law and legal system, for example school rules or family rules. A school, a family and a club have different ways of punishing a rule breaker, for example detention, expulsion or loss of pocket money. Think about this. Sportsmen and sportswomen have to follow the rules of sport and the codes of conduct set by the governing body of that sport. If a player commits a serious assault against another player during a match or competition, should the police be involved? Should they be charged with assault as a criminal offence? Or should the matter be dealt with by the governing body of the sport? What reasons can you give to answer these questions? Effective laws. For laws to be effective, they need to be clear. People need to be able to understand them. Changeable. Community views change over time, and so laws need to change as well to remain acceptable. Example, once divorce was not acceptable in Australia. Consistent. They have to be fair for all, and the outcome should be the same for the same event.